Hi everyone, welcome to Real Science Challenge. I'm Kent Louie, science teacher and talking head. Talking best practice in science education and broadcasting from beautiful Vancouver, Canada. Now, standards-based assessment or standards-based grading or SBA is used to assess science skills in our curriculum, otherwise known as curricular competencies here in BC, or science and engineering practices in the NGSS. But an issue teachers are grappling with is that there are no percentages, no cumulative points, no tests out of 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever in SBA. Instead, we use proficiency scales and rubrics that assess whether a student's current level of proficiency is emerging or developing or proficient or extending. So now, because there are no points and tests out of 20 or 50, for many seasoned teachers, all these old tests we've been using for the past 10 or 15 years aren't going to work as well anymore. Because if a student scores 7 out of 10 on a quiz, are they considered proficient or are they considered developing? But before we throw out all our old tests and exams and create new ones based on proficiency scales, there are aspects of old standardized exams, especially their answer keys, that we can apply to SBA. Specifically, they can be applied to how we go about constructing proficiency scales. Now, I'll talk about it a little bit more in a second, but before I continue, handouts for this episode are available at realsciencechallenge.com/EP58. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, the problem with proficiency scales in SBA is the definition of each proficiency level beyond the general descriptions. For example, this rubric says proficient is a complete understanding of concepts and competencies, whereas extending is a sophisticated understanding, while developing means a partial understanding. But what does partial, complete, and sophisticated actually look like? Now, here's where we can borrow an idea from old standardized exams. Now, check out this old physics exam question on Ohm's law out of 5 marks. Now, in order to get the full 5 marks, the key shows the steps students need to provide. For example, finding resistance of parallel circuits gets you 2 marks. Finding the total resistance of the entire circuit gives you another 1.5 marks. And finally, using Ohm's law to find current gets you the final 1.5 marks. Now, I'm not saying we go back to using points and creating questions out of 5 marks. Instead, what we can learn from this question and questions like it is how those who marked those questions came up with the breakdown of points needs to get the full 5 marks. And from what was told to me, those who marked those standardized exams first spent a day discussing what steps students needed to show in order to get 4 or 5 out of 5. And that's what we can bring back to proficiency scales and standards-based grading. We need to hash out what steps or ideas students need to provide in order to demonstrate, well, a partial or complete or sophisticated understanding. You know, in the same way as how those test markers determined ahead of time the points needed to get 4 or 5 out of 5. You know, we need to sit down with our colleagues and discuss what students need to demonstrate at each proficiency level for each competency, for each skill, for each practice, so that we know and our students know the expectation at each proficiency level for each skill. And one way we can do this is by having a group marking session where we take test questions and have everyone, all our colleagues, or at least those in our department, mark the same question by themselves and then sharing out what proficiency they felt that student on that test had achieved. You know, it's through these conversations with our colleagues where we can hash out exactly what is proficient, what is developing, and what is extending. And another benefit to group marking is that now, going forward, we're marking with the same lens, and therefore there's a lower chance that one teacher is considered a harder marker and another one an easier marker. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can take a test that you've already given to students and pass it around and have colleagues discuss a few of those questions. That's it for this episode. Please smash the like or subscribe button below or leave a comment. And handouts, once again, are available at realsciencechallenge.com/EP58. Thanks for watching, and let's talk science education again soon.